Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopi Jana Ballava Giravardhari. Gopi Jana Ballava Giravardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Nandana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Nandana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopi Jana Ballava Giravardhari. Gopi Jana Ballava Giravardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivirajikacharya Asto Tadasadashi Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivirajikacharya Asto Tadasadashi Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanini Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder and Chari Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Shri Kishore Kishore Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Srimati Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, Shri Shri Guru and Garanga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Stamblade Shrimati Bhakti Swami Tamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi and Gauravani Vichari Namaste Shisham Pastatai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 4, text number 8. Yes. We'll do the whole line. Vigyaya Shakram Kritam Akramam Adi Devaha. Vigyaya Shakra Kritam Akramam Adi Devaha. Praha Prahasya Gata Vishmam Ejamanam. Praha Prahasya Gata Vishmaya Ejamana. Ma Barvibo Mandana Maruta Deva Vadvo. Ma Barvibo Mandana Maruta Deva Vadvo. Grinita no balima shunyamimam kurudvam. Grinita no balima shunyamimam kurudvam. Vigyaya sakram kritam akramam adi devaha. Praha prahasya gata vishmaya ejamanam. Ma barvibo madana maruta deva vadvo. Grinita no balima shunyamimam kurudvam. Please chant. Ladies? Word meanings. Vigyaya, understanding perfectly. Shakra, by Indra. Kritam, committed. Akramam, the offense. Adidevaha, the original personality of Godhead. Praha, he spoke. Prahasya, laughing. Gata Vishmayaha, free from pride. Ejamanan, to those who were trembling. Mabai, pleased to have no fear. Vibho, Almighty One. Madana, Cupid. Maruta, O God of the wind. Devamadva, O wives of the demigods. Grinita, please accept. Na, from us. Balim, these gifts. Ashunyam, not empty. Imam, this ashram. Kurudvam, please make. Translation. The primeval Lord, understanding the offense committed by Indra, did not become proud. Instead, he spoke laughingly as follows to Cupid and his followers, who were trembling before him. Quote, do not fear, O mighty Madan, O wind god and wives of the demigods. Rather, please accept these gifts I am offering you and kindly sanctify my ashram by your presence. Please repeat. The primeval Lord, understanding the offense committed by Indra, did not become proud. Instead, he spoke laughingly as followers to Cupid and his followers. Let me say that again. He spoke laughingly as follows to Cupid and his followers, who were trembling before him. Do not fear, O mighty Madana, O wind god and wives of the demigods. Rather, please accept these gifts I am offering you and kindly sanctify my ashram by your presence. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport, the word gata vishmayaha, or free from false pride, is very significant. If one becomes proud by performing severe penances, such penances are considered material. One should not think, I am great, austere personality. Sri Narayan could immediately understand the foolishness of Indra, and thus he was amused by the whole situation. Cupid and the heavenly women, understanding their great offense, were trembling before Narayan in fear of receiving a powerful curse. But the Lord, exhibiting most sublime saintly behavior, reassured them by saying, Ma Bai, don't worry about it, and actually offered them nice prasad and articles of worship. Quote, if you do not give me the opportunity to act as host to the demigods and other respectable personalities, he said, what will be the use of my ashram? My ashram will be void without the opportunity to receive respectable personalities such as you. End quote. Similarly, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is establishing beautiful centers in all the major centers of the world. In some of these centers, such as those in Los Angeles, Bombay, now Mumbai, London, Paris, and Melbourne, the Society has established very gorgeous preaching ashram. There's a typo here. It should say Chicago. They messed up in the printing, but sometimes there's mistakes in this world. But the Vaishnavas who live in these beautiful buildings feel that the buildings are void if guests do not come to hear about Krishna and chant His holy name. Thus, one may establish a beautiful ashram, not for one's personal sense gratification, but to execute Krishna consciousness peacefully and encourage others to take to Krishna consciousness also. Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Charani Namaste Shinavadi Pastitajdani. So it's nice for me to be back in Chicago here this year. Missed the parade. I was so disappointed. I tried to put my schedule all around that parade, but then there was no parade. So I think next year there was some other anniversary celebration instead or something, but that only comes once every so often. So next year maybe everybody can encourage them to make sure. And you always chant, Mataji. You're on the cart singing for at least an hour, I think, of that festival. Yeah, and your husband comes. I get to see a new hat every year. Subal's rocking on his drum. You Prabhus haven't seen that they have a big festival. What is it? The Bud? Is it Milliken? Bud Milliken. Bill with a B. Billiken. Bud Billiken. 2 B's. BB. Okay, yeah. It's on the south side of Chicago, which is a mostly African-American community. And they have a parade, and it's a big parade, and we come. They have a big Jagannath. I don't know where that Jagannath stays off-season, but somebody's got a big closet someplace for him. It's just a festival, huge. And the people love it. They really love it. They're dancing. More people dancing and getting into it than any other parade I've been to. Even in India, people are a little subdued. They come out, they offer respect when the Rath Yatra goes by, but here they just... So it's a very nice parade, so look forward to that. One of the highlights of Chicago. It's August. Can you ask them, find out what the date is next year and let me know right away so I can schedule it? Yeah, so I haven't been here since then, I don't think. So it's nice to be back. Definitely in the presence of, some of you live here would say the most. Everyone would have to say one of the most beautiful deities in the world. Kishore, very, very beautiful. I was just in New Vrindavan. There's a nice story. Prabhu was someplace, I can't remember the details, maybe it was in France, and he had said that Radharani in Paris was the most beautiful Radharani in the whole world. And then he went someplace else and he said, I think he was at New Mayapur. Do you remember that story? I think it was New Mayapur. And he said, Radharani here's the most beautiful. And one of the voices said, but Prabhupada, you were just in Paris. You said she's the most beautiful there. Now you come say this most beautiful. He said, well, there she's the most beautiful city girl. Something like that, right? And here, yeah, it's French. But particularly it was the city versus the country, I think. Yeah. So Krishna's, right, he's ever increasing. So you come here, he's the most beautiful. You go another temple, he's the most beautiful. You come back here, he's the most beautiful he's ever. Always increasing. So it's nice to see. And the deities, I know, Mataji sends me, Leela Manjari sends me pictures of the deities pretty regularly, so I get to stay in touch with how beautifully they're being worshipped. And I can say definitely, I like going in this temple room, partly because it's so, Pujari room is so easy. But today I went in, usually I walk through and it's very clean and I'm very impressed. Today I thought, I'm going to look deeper. So I opened some drawers. I even opened the drawer that's labeled miscellaneous. Now, most drawers that are the miscellaneous drawers, you don't want to look. And once you open it, you'll never close it again, right? But even the miscellaneous drawer, very impressive. Even the miscellaneous drawer was nice and neatly organized. So it's credit to all the pujaris here. And then Nishinga Kavacha Prabhu was just in New Vrindavan and was teaching this deity course. The devotees were telling, because I was there doing different things, and they were saying how it's so complicated, there's so much to learn, and it's so intense, and they were worried if they're going to pass the test and all this. But then you talk with him, he says, all of this, of everything, the most important are just 2 things. Everything else is, if you don't do these 2 things, the rest of it is not of much consequence. What are those 2 things? Everybody knows? Cleanliness and punctuality. Those are the 2 most important things. He said everything else is important, but those are like the foundation. So it's very nice to come here and see that. And it's also nice too, Krishna sent 2 nice jewels from Pune. Pune and GEV. Some GEV, and so we have city and country. Both Krishna sent, so it's nice to have you both here. And some meetings later with the council. I think with 2 new brahmacharis. I know you're doing a lot of home programs and things, but not everybody in the city of Chicago goes to home programs, right? Last time I looked, there's a few million people that don't make it to our home programs. So where are those people? They're out on the streets. So we have to go out on the streets. So especially with 2 new brahmacharis, Subal, he's the personification of Harinam. We should really be making sure. Chicago's kind of famous for Harinam in the past. We should make sure there's Harinam programs at least once a week. And I told him they got to get a winter coat. He's telling me, no, I'm all ready for winter. I said, Prabhu, everybody here is wearing T-shirts, and you got a hat on and a shawl, and, we got to get them nice winter clothes. Last year I went to Kazakhstan. I lived in Colorado for many years. Washington, need it, but I went to Kazakhstan. I ordered some snow boots. And the day they arrived, it snowed 4 inches in Washington. So I got a chance to test my boots. But here, you don't worry, there will be snow. So we have to make sure you have snow boots. If you're warm, our Canadian friends, they have an expression, there's no such thing as too cold. And we know Canada gets cold. There is no such thing as being too cold, just underdressed. So if you have enough layers, so even here, can be mid of winter, we can go out, and people are still out trying to make money and enjoy their senses. So we should try to go out, and it's very inspiring for the devotees. I know in London, when I was there, at least I think they still do, every day after Prashad or before Prashad, they just go out, they walk down the street, they go in Harinam for half an hour, and they come back. So, so many places. Last time I was here, Subal, where do we go? There was a big Harinam, some park downtown. You probably go out so many times, but it's nice. Inspires everybody. And sometimes we think the world they are so bewildered, and there's so much intensive sin going on, and people's conscience is so covered over. If they're like, without the holy name, there's no way to penetrate their consciousness. They really need it. And we can't understand how much power is there, but it's described in the Shastra just by hearing the Lord's name. Our hearts and their hearts become purified. So we have so much pressures on us. We should try to carve out some time. And there's a nice devotee in Washington, Palaka Prabhu. He's printed these. There's other literatures too, but he makes these free to everybody. The on-chanting. He's given away something like 7 million of those. So if you need some inexpensive literature, he'll give us a whole bunch of boxes. He'll send us, so we have something to pass out. So we should try. Also, before we talk about the verse, I want to remind everybody: next year, very, very important year. Please be thinking about it. What year is 2026? What is that year? What will we be celebrating? 60th, yeah. So we still have our 50th posters back here. We saved them all in anticipation of next year. So it's the 60th anniversary of ISKCON. So the temple, we should form a committee. We should start planning. What are we going to do? At the very minimum, we should 60ize everything. The 60th Janmashtami, the 60th Diwali, the 60th Rath Yatra. Of course, it may not be the 60th here, but it's in celebration of the 60th anniversary of ISKCON. And then some special events. I know New York's already planning a big gala. They didn't do one for the 60th, for the 50th, so they're planning, and it's expensive, but it makes a statement about ISKCON. And then the following year is 50. What 50 what? Can you bring me in a cup with just tap water? Yeah. Everybody knows about I mentioned this last time, the Great Pacific Garbage Island or whatever. There's a pile of plastic floating in the Pacific Ocean. There's many, but the biggest one is bigger than Texas. And it's all plastic. So as much as possible, you travel, you can't help it. But as much as possible, we should try to minimize our plastic consumption and make sure they try at least to recycle. So he just brought a plastic. We don't need a plastic bottle. Sometimes even you read, they do tests. Sometimes the tap water is more pure than the plastic bottle water. So people are paying $3 for these bottles that just ruin the planet. So any little things we should try to be aware. So the 50th anniversary of Prabhupada's Tirabha commemoration, or marking of his passing. So that's also another big festival. So we should start thinking about what in Chicago. It's a very important city. Prabhupada was here. So many important discussions. Lieutenant, what was his name? Mosby? The police department? Who did he talk to? Mosey. Yeah. That's an important article. Crime and What to Do, right? Prabhupada saw an article in Time magazine, Crime and What to Do. Thank you. So he was very aware of what were the concerns of the day. So he spoke when he was here about, you have this problem, crime and what to do. We have a solution to this, how to purify people's hearts. So that's coming up too. And both events are good reminders to all of us that we should always be seeking how we can improve both the quality, especially the quality, but also the quantity of our service, right? And our service and the community service. So these big anniversaries are important. So start thinking about that. Prabhu mentioned that you're the only council member here, a lot of senior devotees should be planning already 60th anniversary. What are we going to do? So, this is a very interesting verse, a very interesting section of the Bhagavatam. So, the subtitle is General History. This is a general history of the universe and the material existence. So, here, Lord Indra again got himself in trouble. I don't know if it's the same Indra. Do you know? Indra just seems like the title of, it's the king, right? King of heaven. There's different personalities in different ages. I'm not sure if it's the same Indra we read about in other situations, but something about Indra's position seems to always make him proud, manifest his attachment and offenses, right? Like with, we just said Govardhan Leela, right? So that's all about Indra committing offenses. In New Vrindavan, it's very beautiful. In the middle of the temple room, because it's in the farm, they bring in all the bales of hay and all the Brajbasis, they're there under, hanging from the ceiling. They have a big Govardhan hill with, somehow they found some lights where the light, so it looks like raindrops. It's really pretty. If you haven't seen it, it's really pretty. And on top of the cloud, looking down on the hill, which is protecting the Vrajavasis, is Indra. And he's sticking over the top, and you can just see in his face, he's thinking, uh-oh. Because he's dumping all this rain and storms and trying to wipe out Vrindavan. He was so over the top, as they say. But Krishna's protecting them all, and he's thinking, uh-oh, I have a problem here. So here, too, he got himself in trouble again. He sent Cupid and some heavenly damsels to try to distract Naranarayan Rishi. Distraction is interesting because we know that's the problem in this material world. It's all distracting, isn't it? Some of us were distracted, as it describes here, Naranarayan, a classic thing for most spirit souls in a men's body, distracted by women. Some people distracted by pride, by power, by envy. You know, I was reading some book about politics in D.C., and they were giving a comparison to mafia families and how it's all about loyalty. And, you know, you're loyal to somebody. So people, they kind of sell themselves. They're distracted by different values and different illusory attractions of this world. So Indra sent Cupid thinking he was going to make sure that Naranarayan didn't challenge his position. Right? When he sees people doing austerity, he got his position by his tapasya that he performed. So he's afraid that he's going to lose his position. So he tried to distract them. So Naranarayan is described in this verse, not disturbed. He just saw this as foolish. It's kind of like sometimes you see like a little child, they get angry with their parents. We all sometimes get subjected to anger, as do little children. So you see some little 2-year-old trying to punch their daddy, right? And it's the daddy's not upset, or the mommy. It's just like it's total foolishness. They're just angry, and they're worried about how we're going to help them get over their anger and learn to not be angry. I was reminded, I was with my grandson the other day, and I remember he's 16 now. I remember when he was about 6 or 7 or 8 or so. Sometimes he'd get angry, and he would express it in different non-constructive ways. And I remember the mantra his father would say, use your words, Kirtan. You have words. Don't just get, use your words. So seeing the anger is kind of foolish. So Naranarayan is responding like that. This is just foolish. Dear Cupid, you were sent here. And let me show you some of my power. And like the picture on the back of the book. So there's Cupid is there with these beautiful heavenly damsels, and then Narayan manifests. It's described, the word is, I don't know if it's in the purport in the verse, gorgeous, beautiful ladies, just to show them, your power is not so much. So it's an interesting story, how the Lord interacts with his devotees, even those that are foolish and make the wrong decisions. So in the purport, just to expand on this a little bit, there's three main points presented. The first one is about pride, and the pride of Indra. And it particularly mentions that Narayan, Rishi, did not become proud of his position and did not act from pride, which is interesting because in this world, so many people, they're motivated by and they act according to pride. We're all subject to the pushings of pride. There's that one expression that in this world, even the pauper is proud of his penny. You may have nothing, but you're proud of it. And I remember I heard on one lecture, Prabhupada was describing how in Calcutta once, when he was younger, was there, excuse me, he saw one man walking through the Howrah station, the horrible train station in Calcutta called Howrah, and he saw one man carrying a bundle of half-burnt wood. And Prabhupada describes how that he was attached to his, if you have wood, wood's not very valuable, if that's all you have is a bundle of wood. He didn't even have wood, he had half-burnt wood. It was already half used up, but that's what he had. So Prabhupada was commenting on how people become proud of whatever, and we see this. You see this with materialistic people. Somebody has a beautiful head of hair, and their whole thing is like manifest their hair. Or I was sitting on the airplane behind some lady. I didn't even get to see her, but she had like fingernails. You can see through the seat. She had like these, use the word from the Bhagavatam, gorgeous fingernails. And I was thinking, I wonder how much money she spends getting those nails and how many hours she sits getting those done, Or sometimes you see a guy, a lot of times you see, whatever, different bodies, and we're not the bodies, but sometimes you see particularly like shorter men in material, they're like really buff, right? And because they don't have much height, so it seems a certain mentality, they kind of make up for it in their physical strength. And somebody else is like, they're really, really smart. They don't have a lot of social abilities, but they're really into their mind. Whatever particular qualities, we kind of cling on to those, we get attached to that, and we can become proud of it. And as we see here, it becomes a distraction. And there's a lot of examples in Shastra. I mean, so many come to mind. Ramaharshan Sutta, he was a little proud. Hey, it's me. I'm on the chair. Everybody's listening to me. And he didn't stand up. He didn't show respect to Lord Balaram, and that was the end of him. And then Daksha, right? Lord Shiva came. He didn't stand up. That was the end of him. And he had all his Shakti, right? He brought out all of his different powers, and in the end he ended up with the head of a donkey? Was that it? A goat, even worse. Yeah. Donkeys at least sing, right? Commented about the donkeys, they're also proud. The donkeys are proud of their singing. I was in Vrindavan one time years ago, and was like down by the Ganga, and there was like this horrible noise. I couldn't figure out, what is that noise? And it was a donkey running down. Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. It was this horrible, it was like it shocked you. And they think they're singing very, very nicely. So, and in the material world, every day we see examples of this, how people become proud. Prabhupada comments how, he said a lot of things about it, but World War II, he commented that the German people became envious of the British, maybe even World War I. The German became envious of the British, and in the end they were both destroyed. That's his short analysis of it. We see that over and over again, right? European history, there was the Romans and Hannibal, where it's from, you remember, what was that place? Some place in Africa. He's famous. He marched an army of elephants across the Alps. He was so powerful. But in the end, he was finished. The Romans were finished. It's all finished. Material world, just one empire coming and going. And we see modern examples. Just a year or so ago, most of you probably heard this, there was some very, very wealthy man one of the most wealthy people in the world, billionaire, maybe multi-billionaire. And he thought for fun he would take his, I think, 14-year-old son, they go down to the bottom of the ocean and look at the Titanic. Some cutting-edge, mini submarine. But unfortunately, the mini submarine wasn't designed so well, and they were crushed. So it wasn't enough to rent a yacht in the Turkish islands or something. They had to do something unique out of pride. I have so much money, I'm not going to take a vacation. Some of these other guys, they go up in spaceships, for a few $1 million. That's nothing. Bah, humbug. I'm going to do something special. And in the end, they're crushed. In our own movement, we've seen, and maybe not even in our own lives, we've seen sometimes devotees, they become proud. And, there's a biblical expression, pride cometh before the fall. Isn't it? It's powerful. Pride cometh before the fall. And we've seen that, sometimes devotees, I was told, I didn't hear it, but it seems par for the course from some of the things that I personally saw this one particular leader, devotee leader. He was asked one time when he was like the BBT trustee and the guru and the GBC and all that, of a big part of the world. He was asked, what's the difference between you and Jesus Christ? You remember this story? What's the difference between you and Jesus Christ? And he said, about 2,000 years. So he's gone. He's been gone for 30 years. Other people that had problems, from my observation, they had serious problems. Sometimes you get overwhelmed by sense gratification, this, that, but not quite so proud. They kind of fell away. They got pushed around by material energy and they're back. This one's still out there from pride. So pride's very, very dangerous, as we can see here. And it's a lesson for us that we have to be careful to not be proud, because we all have a lot to be proud of. Prabhupada talked about all the beautiful young boys and girls that come to this movement. So we have some beauty, some. We have some strength, some. We have some opulence, some. We have some musical abilities or intellectual abilities or writing abilities or something. We have, beautiful nails or beautiful hair or like that. Something. So things that cause us to become proud. But as Vaishnavas, we're trying to understand whatever I have is the Lord's mercy. Whatever I have. He giveth and he taketh away. And there's a nice story I like to remember. Prabhupada talks about how his father would say that Vishnu, in his Vishnu manifestation, has got 10 hands. I have 2. So with his 10, if he wants to give to me, with my 2, how much can I take? And with his 10, if he wants to take away, with my 2, how much can I keep? And, we all see that in our lives. Sometimes, devotees get older, middle-aged, and then older. Sometimes, you meet devotees, or it's just a common occurrence. Somebody goes to the doctor, and they have some very, 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 very serious thing. And they'll tell them, I was talking with someone the other day, a devotee, some serious back issue, nerves or something. And they told him, well, we can operate, but there's an 80% chance that it'll paralyze you. I mean, that's the nature of this world. And there may be other diseases and other problems we face. And sometimes, when something like that happens, then you realize, oh, Krishna. Like when COVID hit, remember there was a quote from adult woman who was the daughter of one of the very, very, very wealthy people, I believe in Brazil, who got COVID in the early days when they didn't know what to do. And remember, they were putting everybody on, breath, oxygen? And they didn't know. They found out later that 80% of those people never got off. It didn't work. It kind of didn't, it had the back. So this man, he ended up dying. And his daughter mentioned, my father was a multi-billionaire. But he lost his life because he couldn't afford all his money couldn't buy him one breath of air, which is free for everyone all over the earth. So what good is his money? He couldn't buy the air to keep himself alive, which is free for every living entity all over the earth. So this pride is a big distraction. So as devotees, we're very kind because we know, okay, whatever I have, we shouldn't shy away from whatever skills or talents or abilities or opulences we have. But we should keep in mind who's the source of those and what good they can do in the world, because they can do good. If you have money, you can use money to make life better, minimize suffering, help people understand their relationship with Krishna, have, decorate, as described, beautiful temples, beautiful garlands for the deities and their servants. And we can use that. Like downstairs, right? It's the garland room. I don't know who's there, but somebody put a lot of time into this and the beautiful garlands every day for the deities. So I don't have that patience or that artistic ability to make beautiful garland like that, but they do, so they're using it for Krishna. So whatever talents we have that we use for the Lord, and we understand that it's His credit. And just like I was mentioning, one day the doctor says, well, you may not survive. Told this story last night. It's just a dumb joke about the man who's looking for a parking spot. Maybe I said this last time I was here, but it's so illustrative of a materialistic mentality. He's looking for a parking spot. He's got an important meeting. He's driving around and around and around. He can't find a parking spot. It's my experience every time I go downtown D.C., there's never a parking spot. So he's looking, he can't find anything. He's getting more and more and more desperate. He's never a religious man, but finally he prays. He says, "Dear God, please show me a parking spot. Please help me find a parking spot." And he says, "Oh Lord, I promise I'll never yell at my kids again if you give me a parking spot. I'll stop smoking if you just find me a parking spot. I'll go home after work every night. I won't get to I'll go and be there to help support my wife. I promise, just somehow find me a parking spot." So then right in front of him, the clouds clear, and a beam of sunlight comes down, and there it is, parking spot. And he looks up, "God, never mind, I found one myself." So that's the materialistic mentality, right? If things go bad, "God, what are you doing this to me for? I'm a good guy. I pay my bills. I take care of my wife and kids, or I'm nice to my fellow celibates. You make everything go wrong. Anything that good happens, it's because of me." But devotees is the opposite mentality. Whatever bad happens, it's Krishna's minimizing what I'm due. And whatever good happens, it's His kindness to me. So in this way, if a materialistic person, whatever goes wrong, you get angry. Whatever you achieve, you get puffed up. How could you be peaceful? Whether you win, you're unhappy, or you lose, you're unhappy. Again, I live in Washington, D.C., You can claim you never lost, but you're still unhappy. But devotee, it's like you win, you lose, you're still happy. Because you see, like when we read Lilamrita and the histories of Prabhupada, and so many defeats. It wasn't like everything was smooth sailing for Prabhupada. There was challenge after challenge after challenge, but he didn't give up. By Krishna's grace and His deep dedication, He didn't give up, and therefore we're getting the mercy of His commitment. So in the same way, if we remember this, it's Krishna's mercy. Some tests comes, and sometimes it's hard. We take shelter devotees and the Shastra to give us strength. But when those tests come, to remember, okay, Krishna's my friend. This difficulty is coming because it's my bad karma, or He's trying to teach me something, like here, with Cupid and Indra. There's like, hey, you're a little proud. We're going to teach you a few things. We see like that, then whatever comes is special mercy. And Prabhupada says, if you become Krishna conscious, just become Krishna conscious, he says, enjoy life with a thrill at every moment. So just imagine, to actually be conscious that Krishna is controlling everything, that Krishna is somehow or other mystically arranging everything for everybody in the whole planet, including me. So every moment is an opportunity to serve Him, to learn more about Him, to become more and more free from our materialistic conditioning. It'd be a totally transcendental consciousness. Prabhupada gives an example. It says, material example for us to experience, that when a mother or father that has deep love for their child, when they see something connected to the child, their shoes or their jacket or their dirty dishes or their unmade bed or whatever, it reminds them of the child. They feel joy by thinking by that thing reminds them. So this is the example that's given for us to be able to see Krishna. Right now we see Krishna the deity, we see Krishna's holy name in the Shastra, but like that beautiful Maha Avatar Nrsimha, in that one scene where Prahlad starts manifesting. Everywhere he looks, he sees Krishna, Vishnu's in the trees, and he's here, and he's there, and he's there. And it's not just some allegory or some poetic description. You know, we're meant to see like that. And every ordinary mundane thing is an opportunity for that. I had to go get an oil change in my car the other day, and on the way back, I thought, okay, let me wash the car. So naturally, I pulled into the aisle where the guy was going to wash the car, brush the car, polish the car, wax the car. So every time he has a machine, he keeps putting money in. And I'm looking up and down the road, and this car's coming and going, and that one's coming. I picked the wrong one. I'm in the wrong lane. It's like when you fly, sometimes the TSA, you get in the wrong lane, and they got a newbie on your machine, and they're asking advice on every single thing that goes through. So at the end of it, I was getting a little frustrated. I admit it. I was like, I got stuff to do. I thought, well, you can chant Hare Krishna. Yeah, but, you know, I got stuff to do. And at the end, he left his, what do you call it, where you put your feet on the bottom of the car, above the carpeting. Yeah, the mats. He left his mats. He was going to wash. He left his mats. I was not happy with this guy by that time. Because it's kind of like, hey, don't you see me back here? Do you realize how you're holding everybody up, especially me, waiting for you? I backed up 4 times to see if I could get another lane. Every time I backed up, somebody would pull in like behind me and get there first. And I'd pull in again. I'd get out of my car, I'd walk around, and I'd get back in the car and back up. You know, it was just 15 minutes, wasn't hours. But then he left his mat there. But then I really, I had to try by a little bit. It was like, I honked at him, like, hey, your mat. And then somehow or other I said to him, I just said, yeah, you spent so much, you know, I could have said, you crazy guy, you spend so much time wasting and holding everybody's time, you deserve to leave your mat, you fool. Right? That's how a lot of people would react. But I somehow said to him, I said, you spent such a nice time washing your car, it'd be a shame if you left your mats. And you could kind of see he appreciated that, and he was a little ashamed. You can see he was a little ashamed that, you know, I probably should have been a little quicker. It didn't take up his time. So I could just see that when we act in a conscientious way, it's not like I gave him a Bhagavad Gita and told him, you're not the body, chant Hare Krishna. But just I tried to interact with him. Krishna allowed me the moment to interact with him, mode of goodness. And you could see it had a small effect upon him. So just, you know, with pride stops all that because we get too self-absorbed. We don't understand what our situation is. And as we see here, it can ruin everything. So we have to be very careful. Second point, I had 3. I'll try to go quicker. Second point, the Lord is really kind. I mean, this is a pretty big offense. It's like we're going to make you, you know, misunderstand and cause you to fall down in material consciousness. Described in the previous verse, Indra, who's so absorbed in sensual gratification, he's thinking that this great rishi will have the same experience. So we should remember that although we sometimes commit offenses, Krishna is very kind. I was with Shruti Kirti recently, and he had described how Prabhupada was super forgiving once. You know, like if you brought in whatever, the prasadam cold, he was very forgiving, very tolerant. Hey, prasadam's meant to be hot, right? Don't bring cold sabdi the first time. Second time, he could be a little heavy because it's his duty. He's guru. He's meant to teach us. So if we did something, somebody did something wrong the first time, and I had an opportunity to facilitate the disciple course in Washington, D.C. the other day, which I shouldn't be proud of because a lot of the students didn't pass. So I was thinking, boy, I taught something wrong because how can you not pass the test? I obviously didn't do a very good job, so I have to go back and look at that. But there's a slide there, and where it's talking in the section about vows, and where Prabhupada's making this point, he says, you must follow, you absolutely have to follow, there's no explanation for anything other than that. You know, really heavy. And then at the end of the next slide, because it's too long, he goes over and he says, of course, Krishna may forgive once or twice. So it's like really heavy. You must do it, you must do it, you must do it. But then it's like, of course, Krishna will forgive once or twice. And of course, we know Krishna will forgive once or twice, but actually he'll let you come, if we want, you come back again and again and again and again until you get it right. It's like if you take a driver's license test, I don't think you can keep coming every single day. They make you wait. Krishna's very kind. You come again, come again, come again, come again, come again. So he's very kind, and we should think that, because sometimes we all may feel at certain times some degree of guilt. Kali Yuga, especially people dealing with insecurity and depression and doubt about ourselves. But we should always keep in mind that two things. One, we're part and parcel of Krishna. And as that bumper sticker sometimes I see, God don't make junk. I like that one a lot. God don't, he's so good. He doesn't make junk. I'm not junk because I'm part and parcel of him. And that he's very forgiving and that he helps us. And we have to make sure we're equally kind to others. There's a nice story I heard last few months about a man who had borrowed a lot of money from the king. He owed the king a lot of money, and he couldn't pay him back. And he had to go see the king, and he was very, very, very worried the king was going to punish him. So he went to the king and said, I owe you so many gold coins, and this happened and that happened. I can't pay you back, and please, 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 please forgive me. The king said, all right, I forgive you. You don't have to pay me back. Let him go. So the man left, and then he went to see a guy that owed him 10 silver coins. He said, you owe me 10 silver coins. You don't pay up, you're in big trouble, buddy. I got friends, whatever he told him, And somehow or other they got back to the king. I forgave him for 100 gold coins. You're threatening to punish somebody for 10 silver coins, which is nothing. It's a few paisa compared to like crores of rupees, whatever it was. And then the king called him back and punished him. So we should be careful too. Krishna, give me kindness, please forgive me, Lord. And then we turn around and we're harsh with others, or we're not forgiving with others, or we're not kind with others, and we go back and ask Krishna, please be that way with me. Why? Why should he be? He's not. So that point is pointed out here too. And then the third point, just to end on this, that perhaps the most important point, described in the end of the purport about how give the example of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We have beautiful temples, we have beautiful ashrams, not just for us to enjoy. And Prabhupada used that term a lot. It's not for us to enjoy, but then other places we read that the purpose of spiritual life is to enjoy. And then we shouldn't be concerned about our own selfish happiness, but we should just chant to be happy. It's a little contradictory. And of course, the simple answer is because we're looking in the wrong place. If we're thinking enjoy means satisfy my tongue, my nose, my eyes, my sense of touch, that doesn't work. Because I'm spirit soul, it doesn't work. I can't enjoy. But if I will experience happiness if I dedicate myself to loving and serving the supreme lovable object, naturally through my connection with him and his representatives and his movement and his name and all of that, I naturally enjoy because he's Rama. He's all attractive Krishna. He's the source of pleasure. He's all attractive. So when I automatically enjoy, if I get this barrier of my material desires out of the way. So it's being described here how we ourselves, again, should take advantage of this. Practice Krishna consciousness is emphasized in the purport, and try to encourage others, facilitate others. And Krishna consciousness, one thing that's so nice about it, Prabhupada and our other previous acharyas explained, the more we try to give Krishna, the more we get Krishna. And that's just the nature of the Lord. Again, he's just so kind. Somebody tries to take over his mission just a little bit. Oh, you try to give me to someone else? Well, then let me manifest myself more for you. So we should always remember that. How we can encourage everybody. How do we encourage kids to take up Krishna consciousness? How do we encourage old people to know there's scope for Krishna consciousness? How do we, encourage not just the Gujaratis or the Bengalis, but, how do we encourage the Nepalis and everybody else? How do we encourage white-bodied people and black-bodied people and far Asian-bodied people, whatever the appropriate term is. How do we everybody? Young women, old women, college-educated, not educated. That's our mission. Just like in Chicago, this is definitely one of the most diverse cities in the country, maybe in the world, because not all places in the world are as diverse as America is. I know I go some places and everybody looks alike. They're all black, or they're all Italian looking, right? Whatever that is. They're all this, they're all that. But then you land in New York, it's like, whoa, what happened here? This is like the mutt shop at the dog pound. Everybody looks different, And it's the nature of this world, it's the nature of this country, and it's the richness of this country, and it's people will argue how that's contributed to the material, at least, success of the country. And Prabhupada came here and other places. Prabhupada is our Acharya. He wanted to give everybody a chance to become Krishna conscious. Everybody. He didn't discriminate. He didn't discriminate. I mean, if he discriminated, would he have gone to the mantra rock dance? Would he have stayed on the Bowery? When all the other opportunities ran out, he knew how to get back there. He went down to Scindia lines every couple of weeks or something, figure out how to get back to India if things didn't work out. So when he had, was run out of this apartment that he was given free because he didn't have much money, and it's like, most of us like, whoa, I'm out of here. This is too much, It's unsafe. Nobody's really buying into this. No serious disciples at that point. People are coming very scattered and not really taking it very seriously. All the reasons in the world to give up, but he didn't give up. The crazy people were coming. There's that one story. One young woman said, Swamiji, when I chant the mantra, she was exclaiming and enthusiastically, when I chant the mantra, I just see this blue light. Prabhupada said, don't worry, it will pass. Right? So many stories like that. They were coming, yes, enough to give up, right? I was just in 26 Second Avenue a couple of months ago, one of the historical, I went in there, was like, wow, there it is, the toilet paper. This historic toilet paper and paper towels. Wow, that's, because, the story of the bum that walked in, drunk, homeless person apparently, walked in and stumbled in and somehow left and came back with some paper towel, a couple rolls of toilet paper, and all the young devotees were like watching, waiting to see what's Swamiji going to do with this guy. And then Prabhupada was thinking, and Prabhupada said, just see how easy it is. Everybody wants to serve, and just see how easy it is to render a little service to Krishna. And they were all amazed. What is this? First the chanting and the prasadam and the Swami sitting there, and this philosophy, just this bum walks in. Most New Yorkers just try to look the other way, and Prabhupada's just appreciating his service. So that's our mission. That's the organization we stumbled into. And we should really try, like in communications, we talk about understanding the needs, interests, and concerns of others. What is it that attracts other people? What kind of prasadam? Just like last night at that program, I was a little surprised. It was all Indian people, but still there was, what they had? They had enchiladas and something else. Was it lasagna? And apple crumble. I was thinking like, wow, I don't know if everybody here, they want chole, but this is spot on for me. I don't know if they cooked because they knew I was coming. I hope not. But it was like, the mentality was, how do we make attract everybody? We should think like that, And sometimes we think like, the whole room's full, I'm just giving an example, whole room's full of Gujarati people. The announcement should not be in Gujarati. We should arrange things for the people that aren't there because they might stumble in. And when they stumble in, we want to catch them. We want to make sure they're attracted and they feel at home. That's the purpose of our temples. And never forget, everybody, as we walk out the door, you see some homeless person or some rich guy driving on the street puffed up in his Lamborghini. We should always remember they're all parts and parcels of Krishna. They're spirit souls. They're all potentially pure devotees. And our mission is to try to share it with them. And as Prabhupada said, that two main instructions he gave after he leaves, many instructions, but two important ones. He said, your love for me will be shown how you cooperate together, And then he writes in the Bhagavatam that actually our debt to our spiritual predecessors, our spiritual masters, can never be repaid. But we should try to repay it, Prabhupada said, by preaching. He used this term, preach vigorously just as I am doing. So somehow or other, how do we make the temple attractive? It's like Mataji cleaned the guest room so nicely. It's like, oh, I think I'll stay for a while. So if you want to get rid of me, throw all that dust back there or whatever. But people should walk in and see, oh, they want me here. I feel welcome here. They're encouraging me to be here. And then they'll come again, again, again. So can stop there. A couple minutes of questions, okay? I think we're supposed to stop at 8:30, but yes, Prabhu. I told him, I said, I'm not going to give lecture tape if he doesn't have any questions, because he always has questions. He saves them up for me. I'm sorry I can't stay longer. I'm here today and tomorrow. Then I go to Naperville for the weekend. Sunday feast there this time, because last time I gave it here. And then lots of stuff coming up. Somebody's getting married in Florida, and we all have those obligations sometimes. And then the American Academy of Religion is in Boston the following week, and then different things. So we all have commitments. I'm sorry I can't stay here longer. Please forgive me, but thank you for giving me your association for a few days. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you for being here and for your class. When you mentioned that, you said...
Eat the mic.
Yeah, when you mentioned that yesterday, you said, you better have a question. I tried to take it light, but I kind of took it it was a little heavy. And I've been thinking, how do I come up with a good question? So I prayed about it. So my question is this.
Don't blame it on him.
My question is, you spoke about pride, right? So, there's seems to be two different types of pride, where one is, kind of selfish, and then there's the self-esteem type of pride, where I'm proud to be an American, I'm proud to be a devotee, I'm proud to be God's son, which is a positive thing. So I was wondering if you could share any thoughts about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was surprised actually I only teach it maybe once a year just to kind of keep touch with it, but in the disciple course, some of the slides, there's one slide comes up and Prabhupada just mentions, it's one of the minor points in this particular text, about how the devotee is proud to be a devotee, or they're proud of Krishna, or they're proud of their spiritual master, or something like that. So I think that's as you said, using the right word, self-esteem, a sense of personal value, because we're connected to Krishna. We don't have personal value. I mean, we do, but it's not so much connected to our education or, the family we were born in or some other opulence we have. We appreciate those gifts from Krishna. They are gifts from Krishna, that we had a mother and father that, fed us and kept us alive. That's a gift. That we got some education. That's a gift ultimately from Krishna. And that we have, some material, whatever facilities we have, it's a gift of Krishna. But if we are proud of those thinking they're separate from God, then they become a distraction. But in our spiritual context, especially, the gifts are there, but also, as you said, awakening of this self-esteem that actually I have innate worth because I'm part and parcel of Krishna. I'm connected to every living being. If I continue in the practices of Krishna consciousness, this will be fully awakened. I actually have a place in the spiritual realm, and Krishna's waiting for me to get back there. That's like, wow, that's pretty important. It's like, I'm not the mayor of Chicago. I mean, how many mayors has Chicago had, right? 200? At least 100 probably, right? Well, at least dozens. They come and go. Again, I live in Washington, D.C. It's like, even if you try to capture the presidency illegally for a couple more times, how long are you going to be there? It's short. So, but there is a sense of genuine self-worth because we're eternal spiritual beings. We're part and parcel of Krishna. It's described, more brilliant than the sun, all those things. But we know that's because of Krishna. If you take that and you unplug it from Krishna, finished, right? that like at the auctions? You know, you just bid $1,000 for whatever they're selling, right? Is that a question or no? Okay.
No, I just have an kind of insight, I guess, the realization. You're talking about how to attract children, or to come to Krishna consciousness, and I remember there were plans for like Krishna land or something like Disneyland type of in New Vrindavan. What happened to those?
ISKCON never had a plan like that. I mean, I've heard there was one. I think Radha Swami had like some idea like that. Danavir Swami. Never came about. But yeah, why not? You know. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had these beautiful, they would go and have these big cultural festivals with dioramas and all these things. And I haven't studied it so much, but I remember hearing from some people, I was really surprised that there was like a lot of materialistic things to kind of draw people in. And then as you got more there and then you learned about it, then you'd be connected with Krishna. So it's kind of like in a similar way, like enchiladas and lasagna and pasta and, right? Kids, if you're going to have a party for kids, like there's a youth jam tonight, I assume there's pizza. If there's anything other than pizza, they just blew it. If the cook wants to make chole, he's in Maya. Maybe he likes chole, but they're kids, right? They want pizza. Devotee kids, non-devotee kids, they want pizza. It's just a standard thing. So we have to figure out what the others want and provide that. Do you have a follow-up question?
No, I just know that in New Vrindavan there are even existing plans for Krishna land.
Yeah.
And they never got carried out. So I'm like,
and New Vrindavan is a big discussion. Where are we going to put the bigger playground? Because the playground's not big enough for all the kids. And in New Vrindavan, there's a big discussion. We need some nicer rooms because some people come that have more money and they want a nicer place than this to stay. So do we have like, all the brahmacharis get together and say all those rich grahastas, they're nonsense, Maya. We're going to have single rooms with a bathroom down the hallway. You have to go outside and take a bath in the snow. Right? We don't say, right? Do you think like that? You were GEV. He's a brahmachari. GEV's guy, you walk down the street like there's a few houses, you go, oh my gosh, who lives here? And those are buildings, right? They built because they know some people come that are very affluent, and that's like what they need. But for us, it would be Maya. Maybe you guys, hopefully you never snuck in there to sleep there at night, broken the window or something. That'd be total Maya. But for them, that's what they need to practice their spiritual life. It's, so we have to provide for different needs. So for the kids, playgrounds. For the kids, pizza, right?
Krishna land would be better.
Yeah, okay. Sounds like you have a mission. I said, it sounds like you have a mission. You're inspired. Make it happen.
I don't know if I'm going to form this question right, but my question is like around paying back the debt. Like you can never pay back your debt to the spiritual master. So I guess my question is it a form of pride or stubbornness when you think to yourself, well, I'm not ready to do that yet. I've got to sharpen my own axe. I've got to, Krishna's put me in this situation where maybe I need to work on myself, or I have responsibilities, or maybe I'm doing something that could help me in my service later on. And then, like you kind of like have this attitude, and then next thing you know, you're like 49 years old. Well, when am I really going to serve? Is this my stubbornness, or is this Krishna telling me that be patient, wait for the day, it'll come?
Yeah, that's wonderful devotional anxiety, right? Is trying to answer those questions, and I mean, so many different ways to answer that. Prahlad Maharaj was 5, and he told his classmates, "Better do it now. Don't waste time." Right? You're 5 years old. You know how much time you have left. And then we see Prabhupada was 69, right? I've heard it calculated differently recently, but we generally hear had his 70th birthday on the boat. Well, what was he doing in between? You could say like that. Well, we know what he was doing. he met his Guru Maharaj, and he describes in Lilamrita, it's quoted, that he was thinking, I wish I could follow you now, but I can't. I'm a young householder. He had at least one child then. He was married. And he wasn't going to just leave them to follow Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But given that situation, he did everything, he maximized it. So, we all know sometimes, you want to do some preaching and you got the flu, right? Or there's a program and you're sick and you can't go. You just can't go. So you can foolishly push ourselves out of balance, but the net result is going to be you're going to be sick for a week, right? Or we had the experience, your generation, unfortunately suffered through this. The parents were not very practical, many, overly focused on doing the needful, and the kids got left behind. I'm taking this devotee class on trauma online, and some of the sections talking about the need for parental affection for little kids, especially up to the age of 3. And when you think about some of the stuff that we did collectively as a society, thinking we were doing the right thing. So, telling moms with 2-month-old babies to go on traveling Sankirtan, and you hear stories, mothers coming back with their, maybe not that young, but I think that young, they'd go for traveling in Sankirtan for like a month or 2 months. They'd come back and their baby be in the care of a different woman than the one they left them with. Whoa. So in a passionate desire to do more for Krishna, the net result was, and I know some of those moms now, they're trying to make up for their kids what they didn't do naturally when they were 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So I think we have to be very prayerful. Krishna's a person. He knows we have various physical limitations, mental limitations, intellectual limitations. And when we read about these different leelas of the Lord, we see he really, in the Gita, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or water, I will accept it. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, it's the devotion that counts. So it's not just a hype, it's the fact. And we also hear if you got millions of dollars and you give 1 to the Lord, okay, he's not very pleased. But if you have 2 and you give 1 to the Lord, that's like, wow. He notices, right? So I think it's a question of praying, dear Krishna, I'm so distracted and unqualified and insincere, and I have so many impediments, but please, help me a little more, a little better every day for you. And just show me how to be more sincere and show me how to do better. That's my desire. And if we pray like that, he'll help us do more. And I'll just end your question with this. I heard Shruti Kirti say this in Mayapur just this year. I never heard this before. He was somewhere with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was talking about his life and his different things that he'd done. And then he was talking about how it was predicted that one day someone would spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. And Prabhupada for just a moment said, who knows, maybe that is me. And then he immediately changed the topic to something else. So I can't interpret all the different sense of meaning that is, but that Prabhupada's, at very least, Prabhupada's humility, that he's thinking, maybe it's me, who knows. And then he didn't wallow in the moment, like, okay, all of you, my disciples, tell me how great I am. It was just a moment passing. Maybe that's me. So even he saw whatever he was doing was, he writes, the spiritual master's desire is to see the disciple do even more, right? So I think that's just, we're also limited, and Krishna is pleased. There's that one beautiful lecture, I'm sure the deity room, maybe have quotes of it in the Vajray room, where Prabhupada says, Krishna, I'm fallen, I'm rotten, but I brought you this one thing, please accept it. And then you listen to that lecture, Prabhupada's like crying. It's so moving. It's Krishna, I'm just, please accept it. Universe is kind of as poor as what are we going to offer him? But then we're thinking, well, I can't do an extra hour of service. But what's an hour to him? But do what we can. And he's grateful and he accepts it and he appreciates it. That keeps us going on. Otherwise, my wife tells me this all the time. She read sometimes a long time. Comparison is the enemy of joy. Do the best we can, and Krishna accepts. And don't compare. Okay. Yes. All the ladies are asking questions today. There's only 3 of us going around. It's nice.
I guess we liked your lecture very much, Prabhu. So, my question is, I feel, there is a saying which says, judge a man by his actions, and not by his words. So I think what a person does, shows itself, And I was thinking, if we look around, there is a lot of talent. And there is so much potential with what could be done with all the talent that's around us. And at the same time, it just feels as if, it's so hard for people to get along.
To get along.
To achieve the desired goal.
Mm-hmm.
You could have the best book distributor, but if he's not supported, how much can he do? Mm-hmm. We can have the best Harinam person on the planet, and still if he's not supported.
The best drummer with no singer. The best singer with no drum. Yeah.
Right. So, we can have all the talent, but if we don't know how to synchronize ourselves around it, it just, we haven't made any steps towards the desired goal. So what could be one practical way to overcome that?
One practical way to overcome our lack of synchronizing ourselves as well as we could? Well, maybe not so practical. Do that first. Theoretically, is to get rid of our pride, because it's so much in the way. If we think I'm doing this, right, there's that nice Leela with Lord Rama when he's building the bridge, and there's different versions. Some say a spider, some say a squirrel or chipmunk, kicking grains of dust, and Hanuman's saying, hey, get out of the way, I'm Hanuman, I'm throwing boulders. And Ram's like, hey, he's as important to me as you are. So that's in the Shastra. That's because, Krishna, what's he need a bridge for? Ram he doesn't need a bridge. Just blink and the whole planet's gone, right? But he builds a bridge. It's his Leela, but he's very kind to let the devotees do that. So one part is to be careful our own pride doesn't get in the way, so that we appreciate the contributions of others. And, that one year, I think it was 76, I was there when some of the leading men in the movement decided that they needed to make the society more strong, maybe more pure. And the GBC passed, I think they actually passed, and then later Prabhupada had it rescinded. At least they discussed it, but I think they passed it. All the women have to move out of the temple. All the grastas have to move out of the temple. Temple's only brahmacharis and sannyasis. So Prabhupada heard about it. The temple presidents went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, that's the end of your movement. We're full of grahastas and ladies, and they do a ton of the service and all that. So Prabhupada had them undo it. That's when he said, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was one of the driving factors behind that. And he went to Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, I'm so sorry. It was such a big offense. I should just go to China. Prabhupada said, that's a very good idea. Yes, you go to China. He said, no. He said, no, you go to China. Go to China. Of course, it was Krishna's Leela, because he went to China. And just, the China mission today is huge. So how can we, Krishna does many things with one stroke. But I mention that because there's one, at that time, somebody had, I think, some Vaishnavi had done some little thing. Maybe it was in cartel, it had, braided or whatever the string, or some small thing lift for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada picked it up in this room full of big leaders and sannyasis and GBCs, or maybe just his servants, and he held it up and he said, how can I reject this devotion? So he's running the whole movement. He's got people distributing, in that time, millions of books, making millions of dollars, opening big palaces around the world. But he's saying, how can I reject the devotion of some lady, obviously a woman had done it, how can I reject that devotion? So that's Krishna, and then his pure devotees. So we should try to be the same way. What was this story you told me? Jitendriya Prabhu. Don't want to embarrass you in front of the deities, and maybe I got the story wrong, but hey, it's Chicago, it's America, it's the 21st century, and some homeless guys living outside, and gunshots or something, and I was told Jitendriya sometimes would come out and say, "Are you okay living out here in the alley because there's guns?" He's worried about his safety. Some homeless guy, So, to have that kind of vision, that it's Krishna's vision. If it wasn't Krishna's vision, we're finished. He thinks about each of us, so how can we not try to develop that same care and concern and appreciation for others, whatever little bit they can do? And we don't know, somebody does, it's like somebody walks in the door. Today they're like a homeless guy with the beard and this and that, and 20 years from now they're a guru in ISKCON with, 1,000 disciples. We don't know who these people are. We can't tell, we can't judge. So the same way Krishna doesn't judge and hold us responsible for our past, so we should make sure we don't do that too. So that's a little practical, I think. Maybe encouraging and appreciating everybody. Try not to let our pride get in the way. Nice story. Satsvarupa Maharaj years and years ago was someplace and some bhakta walked up to him, didn't know who he was, and said, "You're not chanting the mantra right." He talks about, I think it's his Japa Reform notebook or something he wrote, 40 years ago. He took it very seriously. I'm sure the other boys like, "Do you know who you just talked to? He's a sannyasi, he's the GBC, he's one of Prabhupada's first disciples, and you just walked in last week and you're telling him how to chant japa." But for Satsvarupa Maharaj, it was like, whoa, I better get serious here, I better chant better japa. Krishna just sent an instruction. So like that. Yes, Prabhu.
Whether it's a business, nonprofit, or actually a spiritual organization is the mission statement of the organization. The leaders come up with it. Prabhupada came up with his beautiful mission of reaching everybody in the West.
Yeah, his 7 purposes, sometimes we refer to that as his mission statement.
Right, so his purpose. And so, but the challenge is, and a mark of an organization that's run, I guess if you can say properly, is that mission statement, that purpose to be executed by that person that's made your garland today, right? So my point is, it's not what you think, or it's not what the GBC thinks, it's not what Prabhupada even thinks. It's about the army at the bottom executing. And so organizations struggle where the board and the CEO has this vision, but the salesperson is telling a different story to the customers. So in your opinion, what do you think has been the challenge? Because there's obviously flourishing temples all around the world, flourishing.
And some that aren't.
Yeah, and some that aren't. And so that's my point. And so what do you think is the disconnect within the GBC to not be able to replicate the purpose and the mission to certain temples that maybe are not flourishing, even though we have examples of what works? Why are we struggling, especially in America, in the West specifically? Why are we struggling with carrying that blueprint and the ability to implement it and why do we struggle with having controls in at the middle management to senior management in GBC to be able to recognize why certain fundamentals are not being carried out at specific temples where we're not as successful, quote unquote, as other areas, right? So deity worship is one area, preaching and reaching out to the community is other. So I guess what I hear you saying today is no one would disagree with the purpose of how we should conduct ourselves in this temple. But why do you think there's a disconnect with being the 3rd largest city in America that we struggle to fill this temple with a diverse population? What do you think is the real challenge from a management perspective?
Yeah, that's about 15 questions rolled into one. One thing I would just respectfully not agree with. I don't think we are especially struggling in America, because I travel a lot. And there's some temples in America that are booming, and there's some temples that are like, is this ISKCON? And there's some temples that are booming, and they have departments within the temple, and you're thinking, is this a department of that temple? And there's some people within that temple that's booming, and you think, you're a member of this temple? So it's all over. And I know I have a lot of friends in temples in India. And when I go to India, I go to the big ones. I go to Mayapur, wow. You go to Vrindavan, wow. You know, go to even, Chennai, it's like, wow. Go to Tirupati, wow, But my other, go GEV, wow. But I have a lot of friends say, but you don't see the other temples. And there's a lot of temples, isn't it? They're not all wows. I mean, Pune's a fantastic temple. I love Pune, but they're not all doing so great. So it's good that we're a little self-critical. So we have some that are doing really good and some that aren't doing very good. And I think overall it's because, as Prabhupada told Giriraj Maharaj in the middle of the night, we know the story, he called him in and asked him, will it go on? After my departure, when Prabhupada was very close to his leaving. And Giriraj Maharaj said something to the effect of, I don't remember exactly what it was, but if we're sincere, if we chant, if we remember Krishna. Prabhupada said, And then he said two words, intelligence and organization. And then that's all he said, and Giriraj realized that's the message he wanted to give me, and he left. So I think that we are not, we need to work on applying our intelligence and developing the organization. And it's not such a surprise. I mean, in the beginning, it was like emergency. Even Prabhupada, he created the BBT, and then the next day he created the GBC. It's like, those are pretty important structures in this company. He was in a hurry. I don't know what it was. Tuesday creates the BBT, Wednesday creates the GBC, and then he's off to something else. So we talk about this a lot, like in North America, sometimes they come up with this plan, this plan, this plan. It's the question, how do you get it down to the lower level, where oftentimes, you said middle management, the temple president is trying to get the artiques covered. And half the time he or she's doing the artiques. So how are they supposed to be doing this and that? So I think it's intelligence, organizations, and maturity, and just time. We're a very new organization. And sometimes, we'll look, like people say, well, Swami Narayan, they're building big, huge temples, and we don't have anything like that. But they don't have any books. And somebody else will say, well, whatever, this organization, religious or none, they're doing this and this and this. They're not in the biggest smokes. They're not the ones in the Bud Billiken parade. They're getting people to chant and dance. Or some other people are doing really good things, but they don't have 100 prasadam restaurants around the world. And somebody else is doing really good in certain ways. Tirupati, beautiful temple, the official Tirupati temple. I haven't been there in a couple of years, but last time I was there, they have 4, or maybe it's 6 now, places where they let the ISKCON people come. They have 2 shifts. They're so busy, from 8 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon till 8 at night, with our books, Prabhupada's books, because they don't have any books. People coming there and they're getting spiritual experience. It's a wonderful pilgrimage site, but they need help with our other gaps. So that's part of it. We should recognize the things that we do pretty well, but not become proud of that and ignore the other things that we don't do very well. And I think it requires creating a culture of first and foremost, of always looking to see, good management means you see what's wrong. We listened to a lecture the other day, that introduction to the Gita, where Duryodhana, he's calling everybody together and he's glorifying grandfather Bhishma is going to lead them, and Bhima is just a fig comparison to Bhishma. And then he says, but I need all of you here to support him. And in this lecture, Prabhupada says an intelligent, I don't know if he used the word manager, but something like that, he's very aware of his strengths and his weaknesses. And he says if he's not aware of his weaknesses, he's going to be overwhelmed. You may have the best restaurant in town, but if you got lousy waitresses or waiters, people are going to stop coming. You need to know that's something to fix. So your point is a really good one. We need to be more and more conscientious, and being willing to be self-critical and say, what are we doing well, what are we doing wrong? And being willing to put, in a humble mood. If we're proud, wow, look at this beautiful temple we got. Well, same one we've had for how many years? 50 years? So it's like, yeah, it's something to be proud of. It's still here after 50 years. A lot of religious organizations aren't here after 50 years. But, 50 years later, we still don't have parking. That's nothing to be proud of, right? We should feel like, wow, how come we still don't have parking? But if we think, well, we still don't have parking, these guys are a bunch of nonsense, they don't know anything, we go away, now we're really bad. We should think, well, just an example, there's no parking. How can I help get more parking? Or how can I be a part of the solution, not the problem? So it's a long-winded answer to what was a long-winded question. But I think it's we have to get more organized systematically. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said progress is a gradual series of adjustments moving in the right direction. And it begins by we have to analyze where's our strengths, where's our weaknesses, and make more environmentally conscious. We say we love Krishna. The whole world is Krishna's energy. And we're like, okay, we're vegetarian. That's number one or number two most important thing. But I still go places and they serve you prasadam off styrofoam plates. I was so happy last night they had steel plates. I was like, yes. Why? Well, because we just haven't educated people enough, because we're busy doing other things. But, keep chanting Hare Krishna, we'll do better.
Could it be?
So step by step by step. Is that okay? And there's no excuse for us not to be together. And it only has been 50 years. And when Prabhupada was in Hawaii, a lot of devotees came to him and complained. We all have to, right? Said, Prabhupada, this not right, this not right, this not right. There's that lecture. Prabhupada said, you say you don't like, he was, not your question, but it's related. You say you don't like the GBC, but he goes through this whole thing. They don't like the GBC, they don't like this, don't like this, don't like this, don't like my order, therefore they don't like me. Because they were saying, no, we want to follow you, Prabhupada, we don't want to follow anybody else. So right around that same time, Prabhupada basically just said, okay, well then you figure it out, you fix it. Because they were complaining, Prabhupada, this is wrong, this is wrong. He's like, I'm one person, what do I do? But, well, we should take that on collectively as best we can. As best we can. We have to be advocates, It's like I told a couple of people here, we should have Harinam. So nobody's going on Harinam regularly. Well, somebody should go out. We got two brahmacharis. Go out, make it happen. Walk down the street. Go 10 feet out the door. Okay, we did Harinam. Tomorrow go 15 feet out the door. Whatever. Little things. Again, I'm on the part of this ISKCON environmental. We can't figure it out. We got the GBC passed a resolution. North America passed a resolution. We gave a whole thing how to measure your temple and device and blah, blah. We're struggling to